Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint, and today we're going to be unboxing and taking a closer look at the new iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. I've got them both here in the new natural titanium colour so we can see how these actually look and what the differences are between them. Also, today's video, along with every single video on my channel, has been shot on an iPhone. So if you're wondering what you can do with an iPhone, hopefully this should help you out. And I'd like to say thank you to Spigen for sponsoring today's video with their awesome accessories, but more on that later. Okay, so here are the two iPhone 15 Pro boxes. Now they look almost identical from the outside other than the size of the box. And it's interesting that they've stuck with the all white boxes again for the Pro models, rather than the black like we saw a few years ago. Then inside we have the iPhone itself, which looks awesome, some documentation and a 1 meter braided USB-C cable, which of course is a first for iPhones, and we can finally let go of those lightning cables. So this year we get 4 new colours to choose from on the Pro models. They are all titanium, but we get black, white, blue and natural. I'd normally go for black or the darkest colour that they offer, but this year I fancied a change, and on first impressions I'm really pleased I've gone for the natural titanium. It looks clean, it looks fresh, and it has that old school MacBook vibe to it. It's obviously pretty light, but yeah, this is really nice. Now, one of the biggest changes is the fact this isn't just called titanium, it is made from titanium instead of steel like we saw last year. And that means this makes it lighter than the previous Pro and the Pro Max. And you know what, holding this now, it honestly feels noticeably lighter. I've got my 14 Pro Max here on the left and the 15 Pro Max, and yep, those 19 grams really make a difference. Then around the back we've got a textured matte glass finish along with the Apple logo in the middle. And something you cannot see just by looking at it is they've made the replacing and repairing of the rear panel even easier and cheaper than before. Then at the top we've got the usual 3 lenses for the camera. There's the main 24mm lens, the ultra-wide 13mm lens, and the new 120mm telephoto lens. I will talk more about the cameras in a minute. Then around the sides we have the new titanium band. It's a little more rounded than before, but it will still show your fingerprints. But I do feel it'd be more forgiving than the darker colours. Then we have the screen. So we still got a 6.1 inch on the Pro and a 6.7 inch on the Pro Max. Both are Super Retina XDR OLED screens and both have a PPI of 460. They look nice and sharp, but something you can only tell when it's side by side with the 14 Pro is the screen has slightly slimmer bezels. We're talking about 0.5 millimeter here, but it also means the overall size of the phone is smaller as well. It's now 1 millimeter less in both width and height overall. And just like last year, we still have the 1600 nits peak brightness in HDR and 2000 peak brightness when outdoors. So this really is super bright when you need it. Then we have the always-on 120Hz ProMotion display. But other than that, nothing else has really changed since last year. But that's because it's still a great screen. Oh, and if you wondered where this wallpaper is from, I have linked to it below. Then across the top we have the dynamic island, and this is where the pill or island is used to show different notifications and actions depending on what you're doing. We did also have this on the 14 Pro, so nothing really has changed. Okay, then looking around the side, we've got the power button on the right side and the volume buttons on the left. And these next couple of features are all new on the iPhone 15 Pros this year. So first up, we've lost the silent switch on the side, and it's now been replaced with a button instead. But it's not just any normal button, this is a customizable action button. It still acts like a silent button though, so if you press it, it will change between silent and normal, but you'll no longer be able to see this just by checking the side of your phone. But you do get haptic feedback as you press it. But then there's the customization side of it. In the settings, you can change the way that this button actually works. So we've got focus, camera, flashlight, voice memo, and a few others. For me, I will have this set to the camera option, so as I press it, it will instantly open up the camera app. And this is going to be far quicker for me than tapping the screen and pressing the camera icon. But you can also assign shortcuts, which basically means you can use this action button to do almost anything that you would like. Open an app, set a timer, or even make a phone call. This is something that I think a lot of us will make great use of. Then another new feature that we have this year is the USB-C port on the bottom. After many years, we are finally saying farewell to the Lightning port, which, let's face it, is about time. I've got so many devices that just use USB-C, so it's going to be far easier to charge this and only have to take one cable away with me. Now, it is worth pointing out that the braided USB-C cable that does come in the box is limited to USB 2.0, whereas the port is USB 3.0. That means the port is capable of up to 10 gigabits per second transfer, but the cable will be limiting that to almost 1/10 of that speed. But this port doesn't just mean it's going to be easier to charge. It also means you can use it for transferring and saving data. And that is one of the biggest advantages when creating content with it. At the moment, I transfer all of my footage from my iPhone to my MacBook using AirDrop. So this will be far easier and far quicker. On top of that, you can actually directly plug a compatible SSD into the bottom of the iPhone and record straight onto it. Then instead of transferring the content over to your Mac, you would just plug the SSD in. This is such a brilliant idea. Okay, let's talk about cases. And although I've been using their products for years, Spigen have very kindly sponsored today's video and sent me out some of their iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max accessories. Now, the very first thing that I do every time I get a new iPhone is fit a screen protector. I always use their Easy Fit, as it comes with a tray that you simply pop over the phone, slide your fingers from top to bottom, and you're done. I also like that these are real glass and go right up to the edge of the screen. But then if you want to protect the lenses on the back, Spigen have the Optic Pro series for the cameras. These just pop over the lenses and provide that little bit more protection. As for cases, well, I've got a few here for both the Pro and the Pro Max. This is the Cryo Armor, which is now available in red on the 15 Pro Max. I'm liking the gaming inspired theme that they've gone for. It's pretty clean and has a nice pop of colour. It's also designed to help keep your phone cool, which is ideal if you're using it for gaming. They then have these MagFit cases. Now, this is the Ultra Hybrid S Mag in crystal clear, which to be honest is perfect if you've just picked up one of the new colours and you want to show it off. It also has a flush kickstand built in, as well as being compatible with MagSafe accessories, things like this wallet which will fit on the back, or this desk mount. Oh, and I really like this one. This is the 01 case where you can see through to these fake internals. And again, this is also MagSafe compatible. So yeah, if you're after some new accessories for your iPhone 15 Pro models, definitely check out the links below. As for the cameras on the Pro models, well, these are mostly the same that we've had on the 14 Pro, all except one new lens. So technically we get 3 lenses in total. The 48 megapixel main, which is a 24mm f1.78 lens. Now this is the main one that I use for most of my photos across Instagram and what I use for my thumbnails here on YouTube. But you can also now change the focal length just by tapping on it. So although we get 3 lenses, we actually get far more focal lengths. Then we have the 12 megapixel ultra wide, which is a 13mm f2.2 lens. For me, this lens is awesome for those wide point of view shots, but normally are a little bit too noisy. And then we have the third lens, the 12 megapixel Telephoto, which is an f2.8 lens. Now the Pro and the Pro Max actually have different telephoto lenses this year. So the Pro has a 3x telephoto with a 77mm focal length, while the Pro Max has a 5x telephoto with a 120mm focal length. As for the video recording features, these both offer the same features, including 4K up to 60fps, cinematic 4K HDR at 30fps, and up to 240fps when in slow-mo. Now I shoot all of my videos across the channel in 4K 30, and that's on the main lens. I don't use ProRes and I don't use any third-party apps, just the normal iPhone app. So what you're seeing now is recorded on the new iPhone 15 Pro Max at 4K 30, and I think this looks awesome. And don't forget, this entire video has been recorded on an iPhone, although most of it was recorded on the 14 Pro Max. They've also added the ability to record in log mode, and this means being able to color grade and edit the footage afterwards is going to be far easier and far better than before, and this is ideal for those filmmakers that normally shoot in S-Log. And a few other specs worth mentioning. So the chip has been upgraded from the A16 to the A17 Pro chip, so it will run far smoother and faster, and we will get some better camera functionality. But on top of that, it will be awesome for gaming as well. We've got games like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil Village, Assassin's Creed, and even Death Stranding, all coming to mobile. So being able to play all of these on the iPhone 15 Pro is just going to be incredible. Pair that with a PS5's DualSense controller, and we've got a pretty decent mobile setup here. We also have a front-facing 12 megapixel camera, stereo speakers, a Face ID, and MagSafe compatibility, but you know all of this already. Also, the battery hasn't changed, so we're still getting around 23 hours on the Pro and 29 hours on the Pro Max. As for the specs of the two that I've gone for, well, I went for the 256GB on the Pro, and this is one that my wife will be using. Then, as I need the extra storage for videos and raw photos, I've once again gone for a 1TB in the Pro Max. Price-wise, well, the 15 Pro and the Pro Max are cheaper this year compared to last year, at least here in the UK. So the 256GB 15 Pro is now £1,099, or $1,099. While the 1TB 15 Pro Max cost me £1,599. But here are all of the current options and prices available across the entire range. Now, whether you should go for the 15 Pro or the 15 Pro Max really comes down to what size of phone and screen and battery you want to go for. And then of course the storage really depends on whether you're using iCloud or if you need that extra space for your videos and photos. So I guess the final question is it worth the upgrade? Or is it worth buying a 15 Pro? Well, for me, as I do use my iPhone for every piece of content that I create, it is always worth it. Even if you take away the minor cosmetic changes, the fact that it now has USB-C alone will help me out. Personally, I will see value in the USB-C, action button features, reduced weight, and the different camera lens. So yes, it is worth the upgrade from my 14 Pro Max, but it would only be worth it if you see the benefits in those new features. I think for most people, if you've got a 14 Pro or a Pro Max, it probably isn't worth the change. So that was an unboxing and a first look at the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max. I hope you liked it. Now drop a 15 Pro in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my iPhone setup video next, as it covers how I make all of my videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, until next time.